Hey everyone, and welcome. Every single day we all make hundreds of little decisions. But have you ever really stopped to think about how those choices, like where you shop, how you get to work, what you decide to buy, how they all add up to create the very world we live in? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. The powerful connection between our personal choices and our shared future.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. This is the big question, isn't it? We're all trying to balance what's convenient and easy for us right now with what's actually good for everybody in the long run. It's this constant push and pull, and honestly, you can see it playing out in pretty much every part of our lives.
And that tension really boils down to two key ideas that often seem to be fighting each other. On one hand, you've got livability. All the stuff that makes life comfortable. Big homes, roads that get you places fast. But on the other hand, you've got sustainability, which is all about shrinking our environmental footprint, maybe with things like public transit or smaller, more efficient homes. So do these two things always have to be at odds? Let's dig in. Right, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's lock in this definition. When we talk about sustainable development, this is what we mean. It's about finding a balance. It's about making sure we can meet our needs today without messing things up for the people who come after us. This idea is pretty much going to be our North Star for this whole discussion. So let's see how this all works in the real world. And let's start at the micro level with you, the consumer. Because every single time you pull out your wallet, you're not just buying something. You're basically casting a vote for the kind of world you want to see. I mean, look at this. It breaks down a super simple decision so clearly. When you buy something from a local shop, that money and those jobs, they stay right there in your community. Plus, the environmental impact from transportation is tiny. But when you click Buy Now online, that money often zips right out of town, and the shipping adds a pretty hefty environmental cost to your purchase. And this gets into the real push and pull between us and the big companies. We, as consumers, actually have a ton of power. I mean, think about it. When enough people started saying we want electric cars, companies had to listen and start making them. But it's not a one-way street. Corporations are masters at influencing us, at creating demand for stuff we didn't even know we wanted a minute ago. And to get how they do it, you gotta look at their playbook. Two big strategies here. First, planned obsolescence. That's when a product is literally designed to fail after a while. Think about that phone battery that just won't hold a charge after 2 years. Then there's perceived obsolescence, which is more of a mind game. It's when companies convince you that your perfectly good phone is totally lame just because a newer, shinier one just came out. Both of these tactics are designed to make us buy more, and that's often a big problem for sustainability. All right, so let's zoom out from our shopping carts now. How do these same tensions, convenience versus sustainability, actually shape the places we live? Because when you're talking about an entire city, the consequences get really, really big. It's kind of wild, but whether you're in a sprawling suburb or a packed downtown, a lot of cities are fighting the same enemy: water. We've just covered so much ground with concrete and asphalt that when a big storm hits, all that rainwater has nowhere to go. And the result? Super destructive and really expensive flooding. And what's fascinating is seeing the totally different ways communities are trying to solve this. In Mississauga, they went with a tax. Basically, the more pavement you have on your property, the more you pay. But in Niagara, they took the opposite approach: incentives. They offer things like free trees or cheaper rain barrels to encourage people to voluntarily help manage the water. And that really makes you wonder, right? What's the better way to get things done? Do you penalize the actions that hurt the community, or do you reward the ones that help it? It's the classic stick versus the carrot. There's a huge debate about government and human nature baked right into that question. The challenge of growth isn't just about managing the stuff we've already built. It's maybe even more about deciding what we shouldn't build on. It's about drawing a line and protecting what's still here. This chart tells an incredible story, spanning a whole century. Just look at the trends. The total number of farms in this area just plummeted. But at the same time, the average size of the farms that were left just skyrocketed. We basically swapped out lots of small farms for a few massive ones. And a shift that big has huge knock-on effects for local economies and for our food. And here is the brutal cost of all that development pressure: 18%. Just let that sink in. In only 35 years, nearly a fifth of the region's best, most irreplaceable farmland was just gone, paved over for houses and malls. When you lose that much land, it's not just a statistic. It becomes a real crisis about how you're going to feed people in the future. So that feeling of crisis led to a really bold and, yeah, pretty controversial solution: the Green Belt. It's basically a giant line drawn on the map. It's a protected zone where urban sprawl is supposed to stop, all to preserve the farmland and natural spaces we have left.
But here's the thing. Debating stormwater taxes and greenbelts, well, in many ways, those are problems of prosperity. While some of us are figuring out the best way to manage all our growth, other communities are facing a much, much more basic fight, just simple survival. For them, this whole idea of livable versus sustainable is a luxury they just don't have. So take this quote. It's from a debate in a pretty wealthy suburb. You allowed too much asphalt and too many homes. It's a problem of having too much, right? Now, hold that thought, and let's contrast it with a totally different reality. Because in other parts of the very same province, the conversation is not about having too much asphalt. It's about just trying to get the basics. We're talking about communities that have to evacuate all the time because of floods, families living in dangerously moldy and overcrowded houses, and people who don't have access to clean drinking water. These are life or death issues. And that's our cue to zoom the lens out even further. What we think of as a community challenge completely changes depending on where you are in the world. For millions and millions of people, the goal isn't a slightly greener city. It's just a safe place to sleep at night. And that brings us right back to where we started. Back to you and back to your choices. Because whether it's what you put in your shopping cart, how you vote, or what you demand from your leaders, every single one of those decisions sends a ripple out into the world. They all help shape the future, not just for you, but for all of us. So what's your choice going to be?